The morning started like any other, unremarkable except for the weight of a gray sky pressing down on Mon, Georgia. Vineville Avenue hummed with the usual rhythm of a Tuesday just past 8:00 a.m., the kind of morning where the air feels like damp. Concrete and even the streetlights seem to flicker with reluctance. Tucked between a dry cleaner's faded sign and a pawn shop's cluttered window sat Henry's Diner, a no-frills spot where the coffee was never quite right, but the warmth of the people made up for it. Inside, Clarence Dupree claimed his usual, booth back against the wall, eyes on the window. He wore an army jacket older than the kid washing dishes in the back, its cuffs frayed, shoulders faded, but always clean. His beard, scruffy yet trimmed, framed a face that carried stories he rarely told. He smelled faintly of black coffee and hand-rolled tobacco, the kind with too much paper, betraying a habit born of necessity rather than choice. Clarence didn't talk much, but when he did, his words were deliberate, respectful, like he was, measuring each one before letting it go. "Morning, Mr. Dree," Carla called from behind the counter. Early 30s, 2 kids, she moved through the diner like a traffic cop with a smile, her apron stained but her energy unshaken. "You got any more of that peach cobbler today?" Clarence asked, his voice low, familiar. She laughed, shaking her head. "You know we don't start that till lunch. You want your usual?" He nodded, and she didn't need to ask twice. Scrambled eggs, grits, 2 strips of bacon, toast if it wasn't burnt. Coffee, no cream, no sugar. Always the same. Behind the counter, Harold, the owner, adjusted his glasses and muttered to Carla, "That man could run this place better than me with one hand tied behind his back." She smirked. "He's the only reason I don't walk out some days." To the customers shuffling in, Clarence might have looked like someone barely scraping by. No car, no fixed address, shoes that had seen better decades. But to the diners, Heartbeat, Carla, Harold, the regulars. He was family, quiet but steady, the kind you could count on without a word. Clarence sipped his coffee, slow and deliberate, his eyes drifting to the TV above the counter. A news segment droned about. Veterans missing benefits, and he exhaled through his nose, long and slow, before turning back to the window. Outside, Vineville Avenue was waking up. Students rushed toward Mercer University, parents dropped kids at school, and workers hustled toward Robins Air Force Base. No one noticed the black and white cruiser pulling up. No sirens, no urgency, just routine. 2 officers stepped out. Officer Langley, tall, built like a college linebacker who never forgot the glory days, and Officer Ree, shorter, square-faced, clutching a clipboard like it was his shield. The diner's bell jingled as they walked in, their boots heavy on the linoleum. Carla spotted them first, forcing a smile. "Morning, officers. Usual table?" They didn't answer. Langley's eyes locked on Clarence, who sat unmoving, coffee cup halfway to his lips. "Sir," Langley said, striding over. "You a customer? Here?" Clarence blinked once, slow, and nodded. "I am." Ree stepped closer, his clipboard twitching. "You buy anything?" "Coffee. Breakfast's on the way," Clarence replied, his voice even, like he was answering a question he'd heard too many times before. Langley glanced at the counter. "You got a receipt?" Carla stepped in, her smile tightening. "He's fine. He's here all the time." Langley didn't look at her. "Did I ask you?" Her mouth opened, but Harold raised a hand from behind the counter. "Don't, Carla," he said softly. Clarence stayed still, his eyes steady. "I paid. She took the order. You can ask her." Ree squinted. "You carrying ID?" Clarence leaned back, slow, and reached into his jacket's inside pocket, pulling out a cracked leather wallet. He slid a VA card across the table. Langley took one look and scoffed. "This all you got?" "It's all I need," Clarence said, his voice a quiet challenge. Ree gave a short laugh, like Clarence had just told a bad joke. Yeah, we'll see. The diner went quiet, a pressure building, the kind that hums in your chest when something's about to break. Ree stepped closer, arms folded, sizing Clarence up. How long you been here? Clarence glanced at the wall clock. About 30 minutes. Langley tilted his head. And how long you planning on staying? Clarence's eyes narrowed just a fraction, but his voice stayed calm. Long enough to eat my breakfast like everyone else. Carla slid his plate onto the table, eggs, grits, bacon, toast, trying to keep her movements smooth. Here you go, Mr. Dupree. Langley raised an eyebrow. He already ordered? Carla didn't back down. He comes in every Tuesday, pays cash, always polite. He's a regular, sir. Ree turned back to Clarence. You homeless? Clarence nodded, slow. I don't have a house, no. But I got a home in this town. Langley smirked. You got smart answers, huh? Clarence said nothing, just picked up his fork as if that might make them leave. It didn't. You see, this is the problem, Langley said, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. People think they can just camp out wherever they want, take advantage of kind folks like you all. That fair to everyone else in here? No one answered. A couple at the next table stared at their plates. A delivery guy by the door shifted awkwardly. Clarence cut a piece of egg, chewed, swallowed, wiped his mouth with a napkin. I served in Iraq twice. Worked security in Alabama till my knees gave out. I get by. I don't steal. I don't beg. I pay for my food. So why you talking to me? Like I broke into somebody's house? Langley chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. Relax. Just doing our job, making sure everything's in order. Carla stepped forward, her eyes sharp. Then check the register. He paid. I rang him up. What else you need? Langley ignored her. Ree pulled out a notepad. Name? Clarence raised an eyebrow. It's right there on the card. I asked for your name out loud, Ree repeated. Clarence sighed. Clarence Dupree. Date of birth? February 10th, 1968. Langley nodded to Ree. Run it. Ree headed back to the cruiser, muttering. Harold stepped out from behind the counter, wiping his hands on a towel. Officers, can I talk to you outside? A moment? Langley waved him off. We're good, sir. No, you're not, Harold said, firmer now. That man has never caused trouble in my business. You got an actual reason to be here, or are we just harassing veterans now? Langley turned to him. Sir, we're responding to a complaint. Harold frowned. From who? Langley didn't answer, just shifted his weight, eyes still on Clarence. Clarence finished a bite of toast, pushed his plate forward slightly, and reached into his jacket again. This time he pulled out a scratched-up flip phone, the kind nobody used anymore except someone like him. What's that? Langley asked, his voice sharp. Clarence flipped it open, pressed a number on speed dial, and waited. Harold leaned in. Clarence? But Clarence raised one finger as the line clicked. He put the phone to his ear, paused, then said, calm as ever, It's happening again. The room shifted. The silence that followed was louder than the bell above the door, louder than the hum of the coffee maker. Langley narrowed his eyes. Who the hell did you just call? Clarence didn't answer, just closed the phone, set it beside his plate, and leaned back. You said you were just doing your job, he said, voice low. Now I'm doing mine. Langley stepped forward, hands on his duty belt. Sir, I'm going to need you to stand up and come outside with me. Harold's voice cut through. No, he's not going anywhere, not unless you're arresting him. Ree returned, holding a tablet. Name checks out, he muttered, scrolling. VA database confirms veteran status. Honorable discharge, 2 tours, Bronze Star. Langley didn't blink. He homeless? Yeah, no fixed address. Cited last year in Albany for loitering. Langley nodded as if that was all he needed. Then he's a drifter. Doesn't belong sitting here all day taking up space. Carla slammed her notepad on the counter. You got regulars who sit for hours sipping one cup of coffee and nobody says a word, but you go after the one man who actually earned that right. Langley pointed at her. Ma'am, I'd advise you to step back. You don't get to advise me in my own workplace, she snapped. Clarence stayed seated, his fingers drumming the table's edge. Once, twice, 3 times. He didn't look angry, just tired, the kind of tired that settles into your bones and stays. You see me as a problem, he said to Langley. But I'm not the one making a scene, Langley snapped. That's it. Stand up now. Clarence rose, taller than he seemed sitting, his posture straight, eyes locked on Langley's. I don't want trouble. Langley reached for his cuffs. You should have thought about that before you got clever. But before he could grab Clarence's wrist, the door swung open, fast, the bell slapping the wall. A man in his mid-40s strode in, navy suit, dark overcoat, no badge but authority in every step. He held up a black leather ID case. Assistant Director Mark Sorrell, Department of Justice. Langley froze, hands hovering near the cuffs. Sorrell's voice was crisp, lethal. Officers, I'm going to need your badge numbers now. Rhee stumbled over his words. Sir, we were just responding to a... There was no complaint, Sorrell cut in. We monitor certain keywords on open radio lines. You're both recorded. You were violating protocol the moment you questioned a civilian without cause. This man is a veteran, not a suspect. Langley's face flushed. With all due respect, you're not our supervisor. No, Sorrell said. I'm your investigation. Clarence sat back down, smooth and slow, like none of this surprised him. Harold exhaled, long and deep. Carla's eyes flicked between the men, wide, like she was watching a courtroom drama unfold. Langley looked around, realizing every pair of eyes in the diner was on him. The worst part? Rhee's body cam was still rolling, capturing every word, every move, enough to change everything. Sorrell didn't sit, didn't smile, didn't raise his voice. I suggest you both step outside. Now. Langley and Rhee hesitated, then walked out, heads down, shoulders tight. The diner stayed quiet, not peaceful, but watchful. Clarence reached for his coffee, still warm. Sorrell leaned in slightly, voice low. You all right? Clarence nodded. Didn't want to call you. I know, Sorrell said. But you were right to, Carla found her voice. Wait, what just happened? Who is he? Clarence glanced at her. Friend from the old days. Harold crossed his arms. You got friends who walk in with a DOJ badge and shut down cops mid-complaint? Clarence's lips twitched, the faintest smile. Depends on the complaint. Sorrell turned to Carla and Harold. I apologize for the disruption. We won't be long. I need a few minutes with Mr. Dupree. Harold nodded. Say what you need. Coffee's on the house. Clarence shook his head. Put it on me. I always pay. Carla smiled. Of course you do. Sorrell sat across from Clarence, his tone shifting, less official, like talking to an old war buddy, which he was. You sure you're okay? Clarence shrugged. I've had worse mornings. Had better, too. Sorrell's eyes narrowed. This the 3rd time this year, Clarence. Yeah. You want me to push this up the chain? Clarence folded his napkin, placed it beside his empty plate. Do what you gotta do. I'm tired of explaining myself to people who already made up their minds. Sorrell nodded. You shouldn't have to. Not after what you gave up for this country. Clarence's face hardened for a moment. They only care about that when I'm in uniform. Not when I'm sitting in a diner trying to eat. Sorrell sighed. They'll be suspended, at the very least. Clarence looked at him, calm. I don't want apologies. I want respect. I want them to learn something that sticks. Sorrell pulled out his phone. The body cam footage will be flagged and reviewed today. You'll get a call from Internal Affairs, probably 2 interviews, then we'll notify the press. Clarence didn't flinch. Let them see it. Maybe next time they'll think twice. Outside, Ree paced by the cruiser, arms crossed. Langley was on his phone, face pale and stormy. Inside, Carla resumed refilling cups, but her eyes kept darting to Clarence. She'd never seen this side of him. No one had. That's the thing about men like Clarence. They don't brag, don't yell, just carry more than most in silence. Sorrel stood, placing a business card face down on the table. Call that number if anyone else tries anything. Understand? Clarence nodded. I appreciate you. Sorrel paused, meeting his eyes. The people who matter do. But outside, something was brewing, and Clarence didn't know yet that the worst wasn't from the officers. It was from the internet. 2 hours later, the diner hummed back to life. Coffee cups clinked, forks scraped plates, the radio crackled. Near the register. But something had shifted. People glanced at Clarence longer now. Curious, respectful, hesitant. Carla leaned in, refilling his coffee. You sure you want to stick around? You got half the city whispering already. Clarence shrugged. I didn't do anything wrong. Harold grunted from the counter. You didn't. But folks don't care about facts. They care about drama. Clarence sipped his coffee. Then they better bring their own cup. I'm not pouring it. Carla chuckled, but it faded fast. The bell jingled again. A teenage girl in a hoodie and sweatpants stepped in, phone glued to her hand. You him? She asked, heading straight for Clarence's booth. He looked up, confused. You're the guy from the video, right? The veteran at Henry's diner? Clarence frowned. How do you? It's all over TikTok, she said. Somebody posted the body cam footage, tagged the location. It's everywhere. My brother's in college, and he saw it. Clarence's jaw tightened. That was fast. Fast? She laughed. You're trending, man. People are pissed. Those cops? Twitter's eating them alive. Harold walked over, brow furrowed. Wait, who posted the footage? Don't know, the girl said, but it's got over 400,000 views in like 2 hours. Carla put a hand on her hip. What exactly does the video show? The girl scrolled and turned her phone. On the screen, Ree's body cam flickered to life. Langley asking for ID, Carla speaking up, Langley reaching for cuffs, Clarence making the call, Sorrel's arrival. It played like a movie scene. Clarence looked away. He didn't like seeing himself on screens, like being peeled open for strangers. People are calling you a hero, the girl said. Silent warrior kind of hero. There's even a hashtag. Clarence Dupree. Clarence shook his head. I'm not a hero. You're not invisible anymore, she said softly, then walked out. Carla pulled out her phone, tapped around. She's right. You're all over. Articles popping up. Even a reporter from Savannah wants an interview. Clarence sighed. That's not what I wanted. You sure? Harold asked. Because maybe it's what we needed. People finally seeing what's been happening right under their noses. Clarence didn't answer, just stared at his VA card on the table. That piece of plastic never got him a job, an apartment, or even a thank you when he needed it most. Now it was viral content, and that felt complicated, but bigger forces were stirring. When the internet gets involved, stories don't just spread, they explode. By noon, Clarence's name ran across news tickers. WRBL called it another example of unchecked authority. CNN ran a segment before lunch. By evening, the video was clipped, stitched, remixed, dissected by every pundit with a webcam. People wanted to know who this quiet man was, where he came from, what he'd been through, how 2 cops got so comfortable disrespecting him in broad daylight. They started digging. It began with an old photo, grainy, black and white, taken in Fallujah. Clarence stood beside 2 soldiers, sand-crusted uniforms, rifles slung, exhaustion in their eyes. The caption read, Corporal Clarence Dupree, Task. Force Wolfhound 2006. The internet didn't know Task Force Wolfhound, so they dug deeper. It was a covert unit, hostage recovery, classified missions. Most files were sealed, but a veteran shared a redacted 2007 commendation letter addressed to Clarence. He wasn't just a grunt, he'd saved dozens of lives. No interviews, no medals on display, just a paper trail of excellence hidden in silence. Back. In the diner, Clarence was oblivious, flipping through a newspaper that hadn't caught up yet. Sorrel called again. "You might want to prepare yourself." "For what?" Clarence asked. "Phones are ringing off the hook. Congressional offices, newsrooms, big-name vets from D.C. want to shake your hand. Some nonprofit wants to buy. You a house?" Clarence blinked. "Buy me a house?" "Yeah. You're the internet's newest hero." Clarence laughed, not joy, but disbelief. "All I did was sit down for breakfast." "No," Sorrel said. "You stood up without standing up." Clarence looked out the window. The world was speeding up, dragging him along. He didn't like attention. Years spent avoiding it. But now, he was a symbol. For justice to some. Contempt to others. Carla slid a box onto the table. "Someone from the VA dropped this off." Inside, a button-up shirt, new boots, a prepaid phone, and a note. "Thank you, Sergeant Dupree." Clarence stared at it. He didn't need gifts. He needed peace. But maybe this was the cost of making the world see what it had ignored too long. "Harold," Clarence said quietly, "you ever feel like people don't see you till it's too late?" Harold didn't look up from the register. "Only every damn day." But Clarence didn't know yet that his video was forcing conversations in places that usually pretended he didn't exist. It didn't fade like most viral clips. It grew. Thursday, the Mon Police Department issued a statement. "We are conducting a full investigation into the incident involving Mr. Clarence Dupree." The internet didn't want statements. They wanted action, names. They had them. Deleted his social media. Langley tried going private, but screenshots of his old Facebook comments, ugly ones, surfaced. Protesters gathered outside the department, a quiet line with signs reading, "I am Clarence Dupree." No chance, just presence. Journalists dug deeper. Langley had complaints for profiling. Not one, but several. Filed and forgotten. Citizens who didn't know who to call. Letters lost in bureaucracy. But Clarence's one call shook the tree. At the diner, things changed. Carla was interviewed. Twice. Harold's photo hit a blog. Customers came to sit in Clarence's booth. One even asked for a selfie with the chair. "I'm not an attraction," Clarence mumbled. "You're a mirror," Carla said. "People just don't like what they see." Clarence didn't feel like a hero. Heroes got rest, safety. He was still in the shelter, folding his jacket into a pillow, stretching pain from his knees each morning. But something shifted. A van pulled up outside the shelter. Two men in suits handed him an envelope from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, an apology, a housing voucher, a counselor, a therapist. "I didn't ask for this," Clarence said, holding the letter like a puzzle. "No, sir," one said, "but you earned it." That night, Clarence lay on his cot, staring at the ceiling, thinking of men he served with who never made it back, who never went viral, who were forgotten. By Friday, the officers were suspended. The mayor gave a press conference, the police. Chief a lawyerly apology. Public pressure did what bureaucracy couldn't. Resigned. Langley clung to his badge, but with old cases resurfacing, it was slipping. Clarence watched from a bench outside the shelter, a rare cigarette in hand. A woman passed, recognized him, paused. "Thank you," she said. He nodded, not asking. Why? Maybe people were starting to understand what he'd known for years. Respect wasn't pity. It was owed. Sunday morning, the diner was quiet, just regulars again. Clarence walked in, same jacket, but his posture was different, present, grounded. He didn't sit. "I got something to say," he said, clearing his throat. The room stilled. "I'm not a hero. I didn't plan to be a story. I came for eggs and coffee like always, like every Tuesday for years." He looked at Carla, Harold. "Y'all saw me, not as a problem, not a project, as a person. But some folks didn't. Maybe now, with that video, people are paying attention. That's good. But attention ain't understanding." Heads nodded. A man lowered his fork. "I wore this jacket in the desert," Clarence continued. "Watched men I loved die for a country that forgets us when the uniform comes off. I didn't ask for praise, just a seat. Not a parade, just a plate. And still, I had to prove I belong." He stepped forward. "There are thousands like me. You won't see them on the news. Some are homeless, some work with bad knees, broken backs. Some stop talking because they're tired of being invisible. But hear this, being poor isn't a crime. Being tired isn't weakness. Asking to be treated human shouldn't be met with suspicion." Carla wiped her cheek, pretending. It was just her eye. Clarence smiled gently. "We all carry stories no one sees. Next time you see someone who looks like they don't belong, maybe they do. Maybe more than you know." He sat. No one clapped. They didn't need to. Truth speaks loudest in silence. Folks came and went. Some left cash on his table, wordless. A woman handed him a letter and walked away. Harold brought coffee unasked. That afternoon, Clarence packed his things at the shelter. The VA apartment key felt cold, heavy. Later that week, the news faded. Social media moved on. But Clarence didn't. He took root in a neighborhood that saw him, where people knocked to say hello. He volunteered at a school, talking to kids about service, silence, dignity. Staff didn't know how to introduce him, so they just said, "This is Mr. Dupree. You'll want to hear him." Not every hero wears a cape. Some wear old jackets, sit quietly with coffee, fight battles you'll never hear about. Respect isn't for after they're gone. It's for now. So today, check on someone overlooked. Say something kind. Buy them coffee. Look them in the eye. Don't assume. Stand up, even if it's just by sitting beside them.